Alright, welcome back for episode 2 of the Quick Modding series. This time we're going to be covering how to do UVs, because they're really easy to do with auto UV unwrap, but they can also they're one of the things that gets misunderstood the most. An additional note that I forgot to mention in the last video is that all of your meshes need to be completely triangulated. If they are not, you'll run into issues with how computationally intensive some stuff is. So we're going to start uh, let's, by just generating the UV for our hole. So we're just going to select all of our faces. Uh, if you press U, that will open up your UV mapping little menu. I just use the Smart UV Project. There are tutorials if you want to do manual UV mapping. That's a little bit more complex than I do, and it's not the Smart UV project is almost always close enough to be fine. So from there, we're going to unwrap, and then we're going to click UV editing just to double check what that looks like. Uh, this could probably be a bit better if I was. What you can do is play with the angle limit. Uh, the ideal is you want to fill as much space over here as you can, without it being too stretched. I think 75 is probably reasonable due to how the angles on this hole work, but I wouldn't push it any farther than that. So that is our UVs for the hole. We're just going to go ahead and replicate that for all of our other things. A really easy way to keep track of this is just hiding the things once you've done their UVs. So antennas, we'll just put that back to my 60. Remember to have an island margin. Play with this to whatever you are comfortable with. You just want to make sure that when armor burn is applied to your hull in-game, it does not bleed from one section of your UV map to another. So we're going to unwrap those. Yep, that's more than fine. Changing the angle wouldn't affect that. Uh, engine glow, we'll do real quick. Um, also should be just fine at 60. Yeah. Not going to get any better than that. Mounts. Uh, yeah, this is, of course, not something you need to do. Most people just don't have a separate mounts mesh, they just put it as part of their hull. I just do it because it makes my life easier. Yeah, that takes up everything we need to. Check these real quick. Perfect. And then lastly, the window glow. That is all of those set. Um, so now everything has UVs, which is a big deal because that's used for texturing and that is used for collider mapping and a bunch of other things. So, but thankfully, really easy to do if you just use the Smart UV Project. Um, there are ways to do UDIM tiles. That's not a technique I use, since I prefer to just make it as simple as possible. Since I don't use UDIM tiles to separate my UVs, I have to add a material to each of my things that I want to texture. So, rename that mat. Perfect. EG mat, whole mat, etc. So we're just going to make sure all of that is good to go. Should be pretty fast to set up. You know, not hard at all. And that gives us a model that is ready for texturing. Um, I'm not going to cover texturing. There's much better guides on how to do it out there. I'm just going to cover. I use Substance Painter, so I'll just cover real quick how I set up my export. The most important thing is don't texture your windows and engines here. That texturing is done in Unity. Do not texture them in Blender or Substance or whatever you use. You only want to be texturing your non-emissives. So from here, we're going to export as an FBX. Um, we're going to call. I need a new folder here, since apparently I forgot to set this up earlier. And then we're going to save this as texturing. We only want to export mesh and selected objects, and remember to set -y as forward. That is another model side requirement, as you need to make sure the front of your ship points down the negative y axis. So once that is set, we're just going to export, and that is our export done. So I'm going to go texture that, and then in the next video I will cover texture requirements.